One person who was always anti-Diddy and was always speaking about Diddy as a problematic person was 50 Cent.
He would do a lot of foul shit. Like behind the scenes, he would do some foul shit. Like,
But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
Puffy was playing with your booty in my.
The moment Diddy spotted 50 Cent entering the courtroom, his reaction was unmistakable. Wide eyes, a clenched jaw, and trembling hands hidden beneath the table. Gone was the calm, unshakable mogul the public had known for years. By the third day of the trial, witnesses said Diddy completely unraveled when 50 Cent stood up and voiced his support for Cassie. What happened next stunned the entire courtroom, and it might just turn the case on its head.
Shifts in Hollywood.
I don't call him gay. I said.
Let me read it, Fifth.
Oh my God.
Sorry I can no longer help you guys. Soon you will all be gay and happy. You are all now left under leadership of Puffy Daddy. Report to the nearest rainbow. Dinner Thieves in theaters January 9th.
That's why he says things. He doesn't even know what he's saying is like fruity. You know what I'm saying? Like he says something fabulous and he goes, "Yo, but me and you, we ain't party. Like we need to party." What is he talking about? That's the kind of stuff that when people say that to me, I get a little uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable. Like he said something to me one time, a long time ago, at Chris Lighty's wedding. He told me he'd take me shopping. I looked at him like, what'd you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're gonna make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out of no, dude, take me. That's what a guy says to a girl.
Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
I know you've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually. But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture that you don't hear saying anything is because they participated.
Was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day?
I'm just not with all that flicky shit. Like all of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic or normal.
Sean Diddy Combs spent 3 decades mastering the art of image control. We've seen him glide down red carpets with a flawless smile, breeze through tough interviews without flinching, and navigate scandals like a pro. Always cool, always composed. His brand was built on being untouchable. Remember that 2017 interview when a reporter pressed him about rumored payoffs to former employees? Diddy just smiled, adjusted his suit, and smoothly redirected the conversation without missing a beat. Or in 2012, when his upscale restaurant venture failed. He still showed up at the closing night party, acting like it was all part of some brilliant strategy. That was classic Diddy. Never let them see you sweat. Behind that perfect public image was an entire machine. Sources close to him say he employed a team of 12 solely to manage his appearances, from rehearsed sound bites to meticulously practiced expressions. A former assistant revealed that Diddy would spend hours rehearsing in front of a mirror before big interviews. He even had a media coach on standby who would throw mock crises at him just to test his composure. But behind the sunglasses and smooth talk, the stories whispered behind closed doors told a different tale. There were 2 Diddys, said a former Bad Boy Records staffer. The one you saw on TV and the one who threw phones at the wall when things didn't go his way. For years, these stories stayed in the shadows because no one with real influence ever confirmed them. Then, in the days leading up to his trial, the cracks began to show. Outside his lawyer's office, photographers caught him snapping at a fan asking for a photo. At a pre-trial press conference, he gripped the podium so tightly his knuckles went white. Minor slips, maybe. But for someone who spent millions perfecting his image, they were seismic. Crisis PR expert Tanya Rodriguez told me that celebrity personas are like fortresses. They're built to withstand storms, she said, but if there's enough pressure, even the strongest walls eventually collapse. And that collapse came hard on day 3 of the trial. Multiple witnesses described the moment Diddy's carefully managed facade crumbled. Court reporter Marcus Jenkins noted Diddy's leg was shaking so violently it rattled the defense table. He interrupted his own lawyer 3 times, each time more agitated until the judge had to intervene. The breaking point? A sudden outburst during testimony. Diddy stood and shouted, prompting Judge Harmon to warn him that another disruption would lead to contempt charges. His face, witnesses said, was twisted in visible rage, a side of him the public had never seen in 30 years. But the real shock came moments later. Just as Diddy seemed to regain some control, the courtroom doors opened, And in walked the last person he ever expected to see, 50 Cent, the longtime rival, the man who'd been circling him for years, the one person with the motive, and the money to make this case even more dangerous. And worse, he was there to support Cassie. Witnesses say Diddy went pale.
And it turns out that it's just been announced that he's created a docu-series on Netflix. I can't wait to see this. The other end of that, every person who has tried to speak out about this, who has tried to speak out about the industry, the type of people that are controlling the industry, the attacks that people face from the media if they try to speak out, is always the same. They're called crazy. And an example of one such individual who went through those sorts of attacks is the actor Orlando Brown. He was on Disney, and I remember everyone telling us that he was totally insane and deranged when he was saying a lot of things that at the time sounded crazy, particularly about Diddy. Take a listen.
The requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he's gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
You can take the but he won't you.
Diddy, to me, is the fall guy. We are still seeing a major effort to protect the big names, just like with Jeffrey Epstein.
Tell him the story.
Tell him the story. So we talking about rumors, right?
Yeah.
And we, when you Google his name, there's a rumor that pops up that he was Diddy's boy toy.
Oh, shit.
Right?
Wait, so this is...
So Charlemagne said...
It's not true, but I told after he brought up this stuff with you, I said, you know what 50 gonna say when he meets you?
Oh, no, I don't know that was going on.
You know,
I can't wait to run into him again.
What you gonna say to him?
Puffy was playing with your booty in Miami.
You know what 50 gonna say to you when he sees you.
What?
I heard Diddy touch the butt.
Yeah. Wait till I see him. Wait till I see him. I'm like, yo. Yeah.
What's happening with Puffy? I know you're not really tapped in, but what
the last thing I saw was like a guy there. He was like, yo, he like pushed me into the truck. It really hurt. And he sounded me. Like he sounded me. I was like, yo, look. I could find other things to do for money.
The rivalry between 50 Cent and Diddy has been simmering for nearly 2 decades, and it's never been subtle. This wasn't just industry competition or rap beef. It was personal, bitter, and relentless. Since the early 2000s, 50 has gone out of his way to target Diddy, calling him out in interviews, radio shows, and especially on social media. Who could forget when 50 publicly accused Diddy of being connected to Biggie's murder, or when he repeatedly questioned Diddy's sexuality online? These weren't just offhand comments. They were calculated shots, designed to sting. So when 50 Cent walked into that courtroom on day 3 of the trial, dressed in a razor-sharp black suit and his trademark sunglasses, the entire room went still. Court reporter Janelle Martin described the moment as electric. You could hear phones vibrating in people's pockets. It was that quiet, she said. Diddy, mid-whisper to his attorney, froze. His head snapped up, and according to multiple eyewitnesses, his expression morphed from confusion to shock, to what one observer described as fear. No one had expected 50 to show up in person. Sure, he'd been taking jabs online ever since. Cassie filed her lawsuit. Just weeks earlier, he posted that damning 2016 hotel surveillance footage, allegedly showing Diddy assaulting Cassie, with the caption, "Money can't hide who you really are." The clip racked up over 12 million views. He followed it up with a series of cryptic Instagram posts, hinting that he had more damaging information to share. What wasn't public, until now, was that 50 had been quietly working behind the scenes with Cassie's legal team. A source close to the situation confirmed to me that his team reached out to her lawyers just days after the lawsuit dropped. He told them he believed her, the source said, and that he wanted to help any way he could. When 50 finally took his seat in the back row of the courtroom, the tension became almost unbearable. All eyes flicked between him and Diddy, like a tennis match no one wanted to miss. Diddy pretended to stay focused, but courtroom sketches later revealed him glancing over his shoulder repeatedly. Then came the real shocker. During the lunch break, 50 Cent stepped outside to face the swarm of reporters. But he didn't just speak, he made a statement. Standing firm, he announced that he was personally funding additional legal support for Cassie through his G-Unity Foundation. "I'm putting money behind making sure survivors get heard," he told the press, "and I'm going to help more women come forward with their stories about powerful men in this industry." He added, "This isn't about me and Diddy's history. This is about right and wrong. Inside the courtroom, Diddy's reaction was immediate and explosive. Witnesses say he slammed his fist on the defense table, knocking over a glass of water. His lawyer scrambled to calm him down, but Diddy was visibly trembling. Court security quietly moved in closer. And then, as if the situation couldn't escalate further, the prosecution made their move. They stood and announced they were ready to present new evidence. Evidence they claimed would prove Diddy had lied under oath. What followed on the courtroom screens stunned everyone. No one was prepared for what came next.
A lot of foul shit. Like behind the scenes, he would do some foul shit. Like hating on, like doing things with people I done business with that he done business with. He would say shit that I was like, he said that to you?
Right.
I was like, yeah, so all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and niggas don't know what they like till they see somebody with it. So they want the girls after you're done with them and shit.
Yeah. Leftovers.
Yeah.
You take your leftovers. A lot of niggas have my leftovers.
Cassie was not offended by what I was offended by. This is
wow, they found Kendrick and Wifey.
You know, that's obviously doing shopping. They got the same outfit.
Yeah,
and
it's
wore
true.
it in public.
Yeah, that's a nice shirt. That was a nice shirt. All right, so when he said the shopping line, in real life, what did you say?
I said, let me get away from him. Because it was like, he was like, yo, you hot now. Now we got to hang out now. Like, you know, like hang out.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know, maybe I'll take you shopping and I get you some flash and you could give me the hood shit. And I was looking and I was like, let me just move away from him because I'm going to mess up the wedding. I always say to myself, like,
it was someone's wedding?
It was Chris Lighty's wedding. It was in Miami. Nori's there. Nori knows this because I looked at him like, yo.
The courtroom was already pulsing with tension after 50 Cent's stunning arrival. You could feel it in the air, an electric charge that had everyone holding their breath, waiting for the next bombshell. The prosecution team wore that unmistakable look, confident, almost smug, like they were about to flip the entire case on its head. Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence item 47B, the lead prosecutor announced. Confusion swept across the defense table. According to a source inside the courtroom, Diddy's lead attorney immediately stood and objected. Your Honor, we haven't been provided with any item labeled 47B during discovery. That's when it became clear something unexpected was unfolding. Judge Harmon called both legal teams to the bench. For nearly 5 tense minutes, they huddled in a hushed but heated discussion while Diddy sat alone at the defense table. He kept glancing over his shoulder at 50 Cent, still seated motionless in the back row like a shadow that wouldn't go away. The courtroom sketch artist later told me she watched Diddy begin cracking his knuckles one by one, something she'd only ever seen him do when the pressure hit a boiling point. When the lawyers finally returned to their seats, Diddy's attorney looked visibly shaken. Judge Harmon turned to the jury. The court will allow this evidence as it was only recently discovered. And then came the blow. The prosecutor explained that they had obtained previously unseen security footage from Diddy's Miami residence, dated April 2018. As the courtroom screens came to life, the room fell into a stunned silence. The footage had no sound, but the visuals spoke volumes. It showed what appeared to be Diddy and Cassie in a hallway. He was clearly yelling, his body language aggressive, as he pointed in her face and backed her against a wall. Then, in a moment that drew audible gasps from the courtroom, Diddy grabbed Cassie by the shoulders, shook her violently, and shoved her to the ground. Diddy reacted instantly. He shot to his feet so fast his chair toppled backward behind him. "That's not what happened!" he shouted. His attorney leapt up and pulled him back into his seat, whispering frantically. But it was too late. Diddy's carefully constructed image was unraveling in real time. His eyes were wide, his chest heaving. One court officer inched closer to the defense table. What made the footage so devastating wasn't just what it showed. It was what Diddy had just sworn under oath. The day before, he had told the court, "I have never, in any instance, physically assaulted Ms. Ventura, or any woman. There are no videos or evidence of such behavior, because it never occurred." Now the prosecution turned to the jury and pointed out those statements, line by line, as the damning footage played behind them. Diddy began shaking his head, mumbling to himself. At one point, he dropped his head onto the table, unable, or unwilling, to look at the screen. His attorney requested a brief recess, but Judge Harmon denied it. "We will continue with the proceedings," she said firmly. Mr. Combs needs to maintain his composure. After court adjourned for the day, a bailiff told reporters, "It was like watching someone unravel in real time. I've never seen anything like it." Outside the courtroom, the fallout was immediate. Word of the footage spread like wildfire through Hollywood. Texts and DMs lit up celebrity circles. People were choosing sides. Publicists scrambled. Endorsement deals went quiet. The carefully maintained wall of silence around Diddy's behavior, built over decades of power, money, and media control, was finally cracking. And just like his courtroom composure, it was collapsing fast. Even his inner circle, once fiercely loyal, had begun to scatter. And no one could have predicted how quickly the empire would begin to crumble.
Like all these years, you being the only one calling this out.
I look like I've been the crazy guy for a long time.
They said you're a hater. They
You're
said
a
you're crazy.
hater. You're do this. Yeah, and now everybody's complaining. My ass is hurting. There's all this shit that's coming.
50, you can't make jokes about it.
No.
The internet might come for you, bro.
All I'm saying
It
is,
might come from you.
You see it now. All of these complaints. People were damned. They were and pillaged. This was what was going on, right? And what do I get for I went through years of a hater. You're a hater. You want this and that. I'm just watching. Like I look at things and go, when you see the new lawsuit coming with Jay, the part with Jay, I go, oh shoot, like. Then I think about it, I go, that had to be there. So when I was saying that he was missing, he just wasn't actively being out there because they was dealing with that.
Wait, do you think there's truth to the Jay thing? There's no way.
Know, like that. Look, like if you say, I have this thing where I'm conflicted when it takes you 20 years to remember something happened to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I go, so 10 years, 20 years later, that comes back. And it's like all of Puff's problems are coming from the ministers touching little boys.
What you mean?
The laws are the way they are because
because of
the priests.
The priests touching little boys.
Oh.
Before the trial began, Diddy was untouchable. His celebrity circle stood firmly behind him, showing up at his parties, collaborating on his tracks, and defending him publicly. When the first whispers of misconduct began to surface, his famous friends formed a protective wall around him. That's the kind of influence Diddy wielded in Hollywood. Powerful enough that speaking against him was seen as career suicide. But that all changed. After day 3 of the trial, when the courtroom video allegedly showing Diddy assaulting Cassie was played, and his composure completely unraveled, that code of silence was shattered. And the catalyst? 50 Cent. By publicly backing Cassie, 50 gave others permission to pick a side. His move cracked the foundation of fear that had kept the industry quiet for years. A longtime industry insider told me, once 50 spoke up, people realized they didn't have to be the first. He opened the floodgates, and that's exactly what happened. Within hours of 50's courtroom appearance, the celebrity world fractured. The unfollows began immediately. Usher, who'd worked with Diddy on multiple hits, quietly removed him from his Instagram following list. Mary J. Blige, once Diddy's closest bad boy-era ally, did the same. Justin Bieber, who once called Diddy a mentor, not only unfollowed him, but wiped every photo they'd shared from his feed. These weren't coincidences. This was strategic distance. Then came the cryptic posts. Subtle but unmistakable. Lizzo simply posted, "Believe women." The Weeknd shared a black screen with the words, "Power doesn't equal truth." Even Drake, typically silent during industry drama, wrote, "The truth always surfaces eventually." When the courtroom video leaked, some artists dropped all subtlety. Cardi B went live on Instagram. "I've seen this kind of behavior in the industry for years. It's time we stop protecting abusers just because they have money." She never named Diddy, but no one had to guess. The most telling sign of Diddy's falling status? His calls weren't being returned. A member of his management team told me that A-listers who once picked up immediately were now dodging his outreach. "He's called Rihanna 6 times since that courtroom video," the source said. "She hasn't picked up once." Similar stories surfaced about Beyoncé and Jay-Z, both refusing requests to release any kind of supportive statement, despite mounting pressure from Diddy's team. Meanwhile, support for Cassie was growing louder by the day. Female artists who had previously collaborated with Diddy began reaching out to her legal team, offering to testify about their own experiences. Celebrities who normally steer clear of legal controversies were now posting messages of solidarity. One source confirmed that Lady Gaga sent flowers to Cassie's home with a simple note: "I believe you." A shift like this would have been unimaginable just a week earlier. Diddy's dominance had created an environment where criticizing him could quietly end a career. But now, the power balance had flipped. With each passing day, more celebrities were jumping ship, and Diddy's grip on the industry was slipping. Fast. But the real explosion hadn't even hit yet. Because as celebrities chose sides and the evidence piled up, Diddy's already fragile composure reached its breaking point. And what happened next inside that courtroom would leave even the judge stunned.
What is this guy trying to get?
I don't know. Like, it's a simple suit situation, but it's like
20 mil. I can say it.
You still had the blackest face out. You still had to mimic his voice because he's like,
but his
damn.
voice wasn't even that different.
And a little deeper. I was like, almost like, no, that's you, young buck.
Yo,
almost felt like it was him. I almost knew who it was. You know what I mean? I was like, nah. You heard what he just said, right? He's like, yo, certain things they let it go by because it's Puff. Like they would look, like he would say stuff, and it's like he wasn't like in the closet, he was like in the hallway. Now you see so much shit that you go, wait. No, this was visible.
He was in the hallway. We saw the video.
You see
we saw that video.
It comes out later. You're like, that's not the closet. That's the hallway. He didn't give a fuck. Like you can tell that he was already.
Nah, New Yorkers know. Because when Fab, he was like, "Yo, Fab, we ain't party. Fab was like, "Nah, we partying tonight."
He's like, "No, like, but he didn't party."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yo, they let that one go." Like, I had to say something about it later because I was like, "Oh, it was."
The final explosion came during Cassie's testimony on day 3, a moment that would redefine the entire trial. The courtroom was packed. Media crews lined the back. Celebrities sat quietly among spectators, and 50 Cent remained in his seat, arms folded, eyes fixed on the front. Diddy, however, was unraveling. Court clerk Melissa Johnson said she watched him fidget nonstop, whispering urgently to his attorneys, bouncing his leg under the table, loosening and retightening his tie. Classic signs of someone on the verge of a breakdown, she noted. Cassie took the stand around 2:30 p.m., composed and steady. She looked directly at the jury as she described a 2019 incident where Diddy allegedly threatened her career. "He told me he made me and could destroy me just as easily," she said calmly. Even before she finished, Diddy was already shaking his head. His lawyer placed a steadying hand on his arm. The judge noticed too. Court reporter Damon Williams revealed the judge passed a handwritten note to Diddy's attorney, apparently a warning about controlling his client's behavior. Then came the tipping point. Cassie began detailing a party at Diddy's Hampton house in 2018. She testified that after he saw her speaking to another music executive, he locked her in a bedroom for 2 days. As she spoke, Diddy's face twisted, his eyes widened, jaw clenched, and a pulsing vein emerged on his forehead. The courtroom artist captured it perfectly, a moment of pure, boiling rage. Suddenly, Diddy stood up. His lawyer grabbed at his jacket to pull him back down, but it was too late. "That's all lies," he shouted, pointing straight at Cassie. "You know what you did." The courtroom froze. Even the court reporter paused. Cassie flinched slightly but kept her eyes forward, refusing to acknowledge him. But Diddy wasn't finished. He turned toward the back of the room, locking eyes with 50 Cent. "And you," he roared, his voice cracking. "You'll regret getting involved in this." Court security rushed into action. 2 officers moved between Diddy and the witness stand. Another positioned himself directly behind him. Judge Harmon banged her gavel 3 times. "Mr. Combs, you will control yourself in my courtroom," she warned. "One more outburst, and I will hold you in contempt. Security, stay in position." Diddy's lawyer stood up to request a recess. The judge cut him off. "Sit down, counsel. We're continuing." The spectators were stunned. The man who had built his empire on being in control, composed, strategic, had just unraveled in front of everyone. A juror was seen furiously writing notes immediately afterward. It was a devastating blow for the defense. Cassie, meanwhile, stayed calm. She took a sip of water and continued her testimony as though nothing had happened. Her attorney later told reporters that her composure came from a newfound strength, bolstered by support from unexpected allies like 50 Cent. And 50's response to Diddy's threat? Just a faint smile and a slow, deliberate nod. The message was clear. This is exactly where I want to be. The courtroom power dynamics shifted in real time. That outburst destroyed the defense's central argument that Diddy was a calm, reasonable businessman. Behind the scenes, his legal team scrambled. Their entire perfect gentleman defense collapsed in one moment of rage. By that evening, they'd already started rewriting their strategy. The next morning, they filed an emergency motion for a mistrial, claiming 50 Cent's presence was a deliberate attempt to provoke their client. The motion included screenshots of 50's social media posts, arguing they created a prejudicial environment. The judge swiftly denied it. Her written response was blunt. Mr. Combs's behavior is his responsibility alone. Diddy's legal team pivoted again. Their new plan, paint him as passionate but misunderstood, a dramatic 180 from their original portrayal. Meanwhile, Cassie's side capitalized on the meltdown. Her lawyer filed a request to add 3 new witnesses who had previously declined to testify. According to sources, these witnesses, 2 former assistants and a former security guard, stepped forward after seeing Diddy's courtroom behavior. With his power waning, they finally felt safe enough to speak. And 50 Cent wasn't done. Since the courtroom confrontation, he's made 7 social media posts about the trial, each one sharper than the last. The most recent featured a split screen of Diddy's courtroom outburst next to the 2018 surveillance footage, captioned, "Actions speak louder than lawyers." It racked up over 3 million likes in 6 hours. He also announced a new documentary, series called Music Industry Secrets, widely believed to be focused on Diddy and others like him. But perhaps the most dramatic change of all was Cassie herself. Observers noted a distinct shift when she returned to the stand after Diddy's outburst. She stood taller, spoke clearer, and looked stronger. Her attorney confirmed it. She feels validated. She's found her voice. Legal experts say Diddy's courtroom behavior may have fatally wounded his case. Jury consultant Sarah Matthews explained, "Jurors respond to what they see. When they watch a defendant lose control, it often matters more than any testimony." Another trial analyst noted jurors visibly leaned away from Diddy after the explosion. The shift was palpable. Outside the courtroom, his empire began to crack. Shares in his Revolt Media company dropped 14% overnight. 3 major brands have paused partnerships with his liquor business. His talent agency has reportedly placed his representation under review. Industry insiders estimate he could lose as much as $200 million in deals, regardless of the trial's outcome. The balance of power has completely reversed. Diddy, once feared and untouchable, now watches his legacy unravel in real time. Cassie, once silenced, is now the face of a movement. And with 50 Cent promising more revelations to come, this case has moved beyond a single relationship. It's become a reckoning, one that threatens to expose the secrets the music industry has kept hidden for decades. The silence is over. The map of power in music is being redrawn before our eyes.